Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the vibrant streets of Edwardian Britain, where a tiny revolution is happening, and it's all about a simple piece of paper, a postcard. Picture this, the cobbled streets hum with the sound of horse-drawn carriages, their wheels clattering over the stones, while the air carries the familiar smells of coal smoke mingling with the scent of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. It's a time where things seem to move just a bit slower, yet there's an underlying excitement in the atmosphere, a feeling that something new and exciting is taking shape. And then you see it. In the bustling crowds, you spot people eagerly gathering around street vendors, each flipping through colorful stacks of postcards with grins and glances of curiosity. They're fascinated, drawn to the colorful designs, the promise of far-off places, or perhaps the appeal of sending something to someone, a simple message that could be delivered across great distances in a matter of days. This isn't just a passing novelty, it's a cultural turning point. The year is 1900, and postcards have become the latest craze in Edwardian Britain, rapidly transforming how people communicate. It's not just about sending a quick note to a loved one or a business associate anymore. These postcards are becoming a symbol of self-expression, connection, and a new way of thinking about the world around you. They're more than just a piece of paper with an image and a message. They're a glimpse into different corners of the world, a way to capture memories, and most importantly, a means to connect with someone in a personal, meaningful way. What began as a simple, affordable alternative to letters has grown into a phenomenon that transcends class, age, and geography. You find yourself moving through the crowd, observing the energy of the street. People of all ages are picking up postcards, some with excitement, others with a sense of curiosity, marveling at the vivid images printed on the cards. There's a sense of shared joy in the air. Whether it's a grandmother passing on a postcard from a faraway land to her granddaughter, or a young man showing off his latest purchase of a postcard from a seaside town, there's something magical about how these tiny pieces of art bring people together. For the first time, communication feels immediate, accessible, and personal. The idea that anyone, no matter their social standing, could send a message across the country or even the world is groundbreaking. Historians still argue whether the rapid spread of postcards in this period was more a result of the Industrial Revolution's advances in printing technology, or if it was the social mobility of the masses that made such communication possible for ordinary people. Was it the evolution of printing methods that made postcards so irresistible, or was it the cultural shift toward a more accessible, connected world? Either way, one thing is crystal clear. Postcards were no longer reserved for the elite. They were now for everyone, young and old, rich and poor, and they were here to stay. And with their arrival, a new way of communication was born. These postcards weren't just about sending brief messages anymore. They were a form of art, a medium of self-expression, and a window into the world. The designs on the postcards were no longer simple sketches. They were colorful, vibrant depictions of everything from peaceful countryside landscapes to bustling city scenes, from majestic mountains to quaint seaside villages. They were a window into the world that many people could only dream of seeing for themselves. And with each postcard, a little piece of that world could be shared, even if it was only for a moment. The excitement of these postcards wasn't just about the messages written on the back, it was about the world they promised, a world full of possibility, beauty, and adventure. The roots of this postcard revolution lie in the rapid expansion of the postal system itself. The introduction of the prepaid postcard in 1870 made sending a message cheaper and more accessible to the general public. It wasn't long before the design of these postcards became an art form, allowing people to capture and share moments in time, places, and memories with each other. And with the growing accessibility of these postcards, the role of the postman evolved too. No longer just the bearer of formal business letters, the postman was now the deliverer of personal messages, postcards filled with memories and glimpses of faraway lands. The advent of the postcard made communication faster, easier, and more personal. It was no longer necessary to write a long, formal letter to send a message. Now people could simply jot down a brief note and send it off to someone they cared about. The speed of delivery was unmatched. You could send a postcard from a coastal town in Cornwall to a family member in London, and it would arrive within a day or two. That kind of instant communication was revolutionary at the time. A card could be sent as a simple greeting, a quick update, or a snapshot of life in a moment frozen in time. The postcard became a symbol of a new way of thinking about communication, a more casual, a more immediate, and a more personal way to stay in touch. And what's even more fascinating is how quickly these postcards evolved from a practical tool of communication to an essential part of social life. In a time when the world was rapidly changing, the postcard became a means to not only send messages, but also share experiences. People weren't just sending postcards, they were sending pieces of themselves. A message on the back of a postcard could be a simple "wish you were here" or an elaborate tale of a vacation, but either way, it was a reflection of a person's life and the connections they made with others. Historians still argue whether the widespread appeal of postcards was a result of the Industrial Revolution's ability to produce mass quantities of affordable postcards, or if it was a sign of an increasing desire for social interaction and connection among everyday people. Was it the technology that made the postcards possible, or was it the changing social fabric that allowed the postcards to thrive? Either way, the postcard boom had a profound impact on society, and by the dawn of the Edwardian era, these tiny pieces of art were shaping how people communicated, shared memories, and connected with one another. And so you walk through the streets of Edwardian Britain, swept up in the energy of the times, watching as this simple yet revolutionary object, the postcard, captures the imagination of everyone. From the vendor's stall to the busy post office, postcards have become a way of life. You can feel the excitement in the air, as if everyone has just discovered the perfect way to stay in touch with the world. And with each postcard, a little piece of that world is shared, treasured, and remembered. You find yourself standing on the cobbled streets, gazing at the vibrant scene unfolding before you. People are gathered around the postcard vendors, their fingers flipping through stacks of colorful cards, each one more intricate than the last. The postcards are not just a means of communication, they are an expression of the times, a cultural revolution captured in a single frame. From bustling city streets to serene country landscapes, every postcard tells a story. Some depict famous landmarks, others showcase quaint little towns, while some even feature playful or humorous illustrations. Each card is a window into a world that people could only imagine before, one that now feels within reach thanks to this newfound way of sharing. What's fascinating is how quickly these postcards became more than just a practical tool for sending messages. They became a way for people to share a piece of their world, whether it was a recent trip, a funny moment, or simply a fleeting memory they wanted to preserve. The designs on the postcards were as diverse as the people who bought them. Some cards were beautifully illustrated, showcasing scenes from foreign lands or fantastical imaginings, while others were simple, direct representations of everyday life. There was something for everyone. Whether you were an aristocrat collecting exotic postcards from the far corners of the globe, or a working-class family sending a postcard from the local market. It didn't take long for postcards to become not just a mode of communication, but also a cultural symbol. You begin to notice that postcards are everywhere, on kitchen tables, in parlor rooms, in the pockets of well-dressed men and women ready to be sent at a moment's notice. But it's more than just a social trend. Postcards are becoming part of people's lives in a very personal way. The cards, with their colorful imagery and personal messages, are as much about the experience of sharing something meaningful as they are about the practicalities of communication. Postcards have become an integral part of social life in Edwardian Britain.
But they also signal something deeper, a shift in the way people are connecting with one another. With more and more people traveling, seeing the world, and experiencing different cultures, postcards offer a way to share these experiences with loved ones far and wide. It's no longer just about sending a brief note. It's about sharing moments, emotions, and stories in a way that feels immediate and personal, even if the recipient is miles away. Historians still debate whether the rise of postcards was simply a product of the growing printing technology or a reflection of the increasing social mobility and the desire for greater connection. Was it the advancements in mass printing that made postcards so popular? Or was it a deeper, more personal need for people to express themselves, to share their lives with others? Either way, postcards became a new creative outlet for communication, one that was accessible to almost anyone, regardless of class, age, or wealth. As you continue walking through the lively street, you can't help but feel the sense of excitement that comes with the postcard's rise in popularity. Every postcard, whether sent from a faraway destination or from the local market, holds a small piece of the sender's world, a world that is just a little bit more connected thanks to this simple invention. You begin to understand that the postcard craze is more than just sending a message. It's about building a bridge between people, no matter the distance. It's a way of bringing the world closer together, one card at a time. In the distance, a vendor enthusiastically calls out to passersby, offering postcards featuring exotic locations like Egypt, India, and the Swiss Alps, places that most people in Britain could only dream of visiting. Yet through the postcards, these far-off lands become accessible, if only for a brief moment. The postcards aren't just souvenirs. They are symbols of adventure, of possibility, of the unknown. And in this new world of postcards, even the most ordinary person can participate in something grand. The excitement of the crowd reflects the growing sense that something special is happening. People are no longer just sending messages. They're sharing stories. They're connecting in ways that were once reserved for the elite. It's not just about the image on the card, but what that image represents. A world of discovery, of experiences, and of personal connections that stretch far beyond the city streets. And as you watch, you realize that the postcard is not just a passing trend. It's the beginning of something bigger, a shift in how people view communication, connection, and the world around them. And as you walk through the streets of Edwardian Britain, it's clear that the world of postcards is just beginning to take.
As you step further into the heart of the bustling city, you notice something striking. People, young and old, are not only sending postcards to friends and family, but they're also making a hobby of collecting them. The postcards aren't merely practical tools for communication anymore. They've become a cultural artifact, a way to keep and display memories. It's not just about receiving a postcard from a faraway place. Now people eagerly collect them, curate their own little galleries of scenes, landscapes, and even quirky caricatures. You see it all around you. Men in fine suits with pockets full of postcards. Women with elegant albums carefully filling their pages. Each card an extension of their personal journey. The appeal is clear. Postcards provide not just a connection to the world, but a way to hold on to it, physically, emotionally, and socially. As people travel, whether on a grand adventure or to visit family, they purchase postcards to remember and share their experiences. And now, they're keeping those cards not only for the messages on the back, but for the artwork on the front, which often features stunning photography or intricate illustrations. The simple postcard has transformed into a treasured collectible, capturing not just a moment, but an entire lifestyle. At the local market, you notice groups of people huddled together, flipping through postcards as if they were rare treasures. Some are smiling, showing off postcards they found from distant lands. Others are bargaining with the vendors, eager to add rare or unique cards to their growing collections. The excitement is palpable. It's not just about the images on the postcards anymore. It's about owning a piece of the world. People have begun to exchange postcards, swap them at special postcard fairs, and even purchase them as an investment, hoping to someday sell them at a higher value. The act of collecting has become a social event in and of itself. You're fascinated by how this once simple practice has turned into a serious hobby. Families have begun creating albums dedicated solely to their postcard collections, arranging them by location, subject, or artist. The postcards aren't just part of a fleeting trend, they've become part of the fabric of everyday life. People take pride in their collections, showing them off to friends and family, comparing notes on rare finds, and even competing to gather the most unusual cards. The postcards, in a way, have taken on a life of their own, representing not just the places they depict, but also the people who collect them and the connections they foster. Historians still debate whether the rise of postcard collecting was merely a passing hobby or a deeper cultural shift in how people engaged with their surroundings. Was it simply an extension of the Edwardian fascination with collecting items, be it stamps, coins, or other memorabilia? Or was it a reflection of a larger desire to preserve and celebrate the world in a tangible way? Either way, one thing is clear. The postcard collection was more than just a pastime. It was an intimate expression of a changing world, where people could hold on to memories, share stories, and create connections that spanned both time and distance. You begin to see the cultural importance of these postcards in a way you hadn't before. They're not just pieces of art or images, they're tiny windows into other worlds, and for many people, they're a way to experience places they might never visit. The postcards have become a way to explore and share, not only with the people closest to you, but with the world at large. It's no longer just about the message on the back. It's about the connection that card represents. You can almost feel the excitement of the people around you as they flip through stacks of cards, eagerly searching for that perfect one. And with each new card added to their collection, they're not just acquiring a souvenir, they're acquiring a piece of the world, a piece of history, a piece of someone else's life. As you continue through the city streets, you start to appreciate the full cultural impact of the postcard. It's more than just a message or an image. It's a symbol of the Edwardian fascination with communication, culture, and connection. It's a symbol of a time when people could reach out and touch the world with a single card, a time when technology and creativity combined to make distant lands feel just a little bit closer. Postcards, in their simplicity, have opened up a new world of possibilities for people to share, collect, and connect with each other. And as you see the joy these cards bring to the people around you, you realize that the postcard boom is just beginning, and it will change the way the world communicates forever.
The further you wander into the streets of Edwardian Britain, the more you see the growing fascination with postcards. But what strikes you now as you observe people of different social classes is how postcards have begun to represent more than just communication. They've become a symbol of status. You spot a well-dressed man, his finely tailored suit complemented by a pocket square, carefully inspecting a stack of postcards at a vendor's stall. His eyes light up when he finds one depicting a grand foreign city, something exotic and far beyond the reach of most people. Without a word, he hands over a few coins, a proud smile on his face.
He is collecting not just postcards, but symbols of his status and sophistication. It seems that the more exotic and luxurious the image, the more sought after the postcard becomes. You realize that in this time, a postcard isn't just a form of communication, it's a display of wealth and worldly knowledge. A postcard featuring an image of a bustling Egyptian market or a grand Parisian landmark is no longer just a beautiful image. It's a statement. It's a way for people to express their taste, their knowledge of the world, and their ability to participate in a global conversation. In the same way that owning fine art or traveling to distant lands once demonstrated social status, so too does owning and displaying these postcards. You overhear snippets of conversations among upper-class women as they show off their postcard collections at an afternoon tea. They compare the rarest postcards they've acquired, some from the far reaches of the British Empire, others from famous European capitals, and discuss the excitement of receiving one from an exclusive event or a renowned artist. These postcards aren't just messages, they're status symbols, tiny artifacts of the exotic and the elite. As the women sip tea and exchange postcards, you notice the way they delicately handle their prized collections, carefully placing them in custom-designed albums. It's as if the postcard has evolved from a simple memento into a personal treasure, something to be cherished and protected. Historians still debate whether this trend was a natural extension of the growing middle and upper-class aspirations during the Edwardian period, or whether it was a reflection of the growing influence of mass culture and the desire to experience the exotic and the far-off. Was the appeal of postcards simply an extension of the Edwardian fascination with travel and global exploration, or was it a way for people to feel closer to the world even when they could not afford to travel? Either way, postcards have taken on a new role. They are no longer just about sending a message. They are a form of self-expression and a way to project a carefully curated image of sophistication, wealth, and cosmopolitan taste. As you continue your walk through the bustling streets, you can't help but notice how the postcards you see being sold in shops are increasingly becoming more than just souvenirs. They are not just reminders of places visited. They are part of a lifestyle, part of a social currency. Owning postcards from specific locations or events or from renowned photographers has become an activity reserved for the elite. The postcards are becoming more and more selective in terms of design, quality, and subject matter, each one a carefully chosen piece of a social puzzle. These are not just cards, they are artifacts, pieces of personal branding that communicate the owner's sophistication, worldliness, and taste. You see people eagerly exchanging postcards, each one carefully selected to reflect a particular theme or place. The more exotic the destination, or the rarer the postcard, the more prestige it seems to carry. You notice a woman in a fancy hat showing off her latest acquisitions, postcards from an exclusive art exhibition, some featuring works by famous artists, others showcasing rare, never-before-seen photographs of distant lands. Each card isn't just an image, it's a piece of the elite's cultural currency, a subtle display of status, and a testament to their ability to access the world beyond the ordinary. In contrast, you see a working-class man picking up a postcard featuring a well-known British landmark, his fingers lightly tracing the edges as he admires the beauty of the scene. For him, the postcard is still a piece of art, but it represents something different, a moment to share with a family member or a friend. It's a simple, accessible form of connection, a small token that bridges the gap between the everyday and the extraordinary. And while the postcard may not carry the same social weight for him as it does for the upper classes, it still holds value, both as a connection to something greater than himself and as a way to send a personal message to someone far away. As you reflect on the way postcards are shaping Edwardian society, you begin to see how this tiny, affordable object
is becoming a lens through which people define their place in the world. For some, it's a status symbol, a way to project wealth and sophistication. For others, it's a cherished memento, a way to communicate with loved ones and preserve memories. Postcards have become much more than mere paper and ink. They've evolved into a reflection of society itself, a society that is becoming more connected, more global, and more complex in how it communicates and presents itself. The rise of postcards has taken Edwardian Britain by storm, and as you walk through the streets, it's clear that postcards have found their place in this new world. They represent more than just messages. They represent status, connection, and the way people communicate with the world. With each card sent or collected, a little piece of the world is shared, treasured, and displayed. The world of postcards is far from ordinary, and as the craze continues to grow, it's clear that these small, colorful cards are shaping the way people connect, share, and express themselves in the modern age.
As the days turn into months and the postcard craze sweeps across Edwardian Britain, something shifts in the air. Postcards begin to take on new emotional significance. You see a mother sitting at her dining table, surrounded by postcards she has received from her son, who is serving at the front lines. Each postcard is a lifeline, a small piece of comfort in the face of uncertainty. The postcards, once a light-hearted way to share a moment, now carry weight and meaning far beyond simple communication. They're a bridge between soldiers and their families, between war-torn landscapes and the homes they've left behind. You watch as the woman delicately turns each postcard over in her hands, reading the brief messages, tracing the words with her fingers as if to hold on to them a little longer. The cards, sent from distant battlefields, contain nothing more than short, hurried notes. "I'm well," "thinking of you," or "hope to be home soon." But to the recipient, they are treasures. They are the only connection to a loved one who is far away, a reminder that they are still part of each other's lives, despite the vast distance and danger that separates them. It's an emotional connection forged through a simple piece of paper, delivered by the humble postman, who now serves as a crucial lifeline between the front lines and the home front. For the soldiers, the postcard has become a tool of survival, a way to hold on to their humanity in the face of war. In the trenches, where the conditions are grim and the future uncertain, a postcard is a small moment of normalcy, a chance to write a message to someone they love, to remind them that life continues beyond the battlefield. The postcards often feature simple images of nature, peaceful landscapes, or patriotic symbols, reminders of a world that feels so far removed from the chaos they are living through. Despite the brevity of the messages, the act of sending a postcard carries an immense emotional weight. Historians still argue whether the emotional significance of these postcards was simply a way to provide comfort, or if it reflected a deeper need for soldiers to maintain a sense of identity during such a traumatic time. As you walk through a street corner, you see families eagerly awaiting the arrival of the postman, hoping for news from their loved ones. A young woman stands by her front door, clutching a postcard that has just arrived from her fiancé, who is fighting in France. Her face lights up with a mixture of relief and sadness as she reads the brief message, her fingers trembling slightly as she holds the card. To her, this postcard represents everything: hope, love, and the promise of a future together. In a world that has been turned upside down by war, these postcards are the threads that hold everything together. The postman, who once only delivered routine letters and bills, has become a symbol of hope during these dark times. You can see it in the way people greet him as he walks down the street, eyes scanning his bag for the familiar envelopes or postcards that carry the comforting words of a loved one. The postcards sent from the front lines have become precious keepsakes, often framed or stored carefully in drawers to be cherished forever. They are not just pieces of paper,
they are lifelines, connecting families and soldiers in a way that no other communication can. You begin to realize that the postcard has taken on a new role, one that goes beyond just a social trend or a form of communication. It has become a symbol of endurance and connection in a world that seems to be falling apart. The simple postcard, with its colorful imagery and brief messages, carries with it the weight of emotions that are sometimes too difficult to put into words. It represents the longing for home, the desire for normalcy, and the enduring power of human connection in the face of overwhelming adversity. As the war continues, you observe how postcards evolve further. They become more than just a way to send news. They are a way to share comfort and hope, even in the most challenging of times. People begin to send postcards not just to share updates, but to reassure one another that they are not alone, that the world beyond the war still exists, still waits. The images on the postcards may be peaceful, but the messages they carry are filled with longing, love, and a deep sense of connection that transcends the physical distance between the sender and the recipient. The postcard has become a beacon of hope, a reminder that despite the chaos of war, the bonds between people remain unbroken. Historians still debate whether the emotional weight of these wartime postcards was a reflection of the deepening personal connections formed during the war, or if it was a coping mechanism, a way to maintain a sense of normalcy amidst the trauma. But what is certain is that the postcards became an essential part of life during the war, both for soldiers on the front lines and for the families they left behind. They were small pieces of comfort, reminders of love and hope, in a time when those things seemed scarce. As you continue through the streets of the city, you can't help but feel a deep sense of respect for these postcards. What once started as a casual form of communication has become something far more significant. These tiny pieces of paper, filled with images and words, have come to represent the resilience of the human spirit, the power of connection, and the ability to hold on to hope even in the darkest of times. In a way, these postcards are more than just mementos. They are symbols of survival, love, and the enduring strength of the bonds that tie us all together.
As the years pass and the war eventually ends, the postcard craze begins to shift once again, though not without leaving its indelible mark. You find yourself standing in the middle of a lively Victorian-era living room, where an elderly woman is sitting in her favorite chair, flipping through an old album filled with postcards. The room is warm, the soft glow of gas lamps flickering in the corners, and the woman's face is filled with nostalgia as she gazes at the postcards from her youth. She stops on a particular postcard, one from her son, sent from the front lines during the Great War, and traces her finger across the faded image, a tear escaping her eye. It's a small, intimate moment, yet it encapsulates the transformation that postcards have undergone over the past decade. They have evolved from a mere means of communication to deeply personal mementos, artifacts imbued with the weight of memory. You notice the way the postcards have aged, their colors beginning to fade, the edges curling slightly from years of handling. Some are neatly arranged in albums, while others are tucked away in drawers or pinned up on walls as sentimental reminders. These postcards, once so vibrant and full of life, now serve as cherished tokens of a past time. For many, they represent the memories of loved ones lost to war, adventures long past, or relationships that have since faded with time. What once started as a casual form of communication has now become a symbol of a changing era, a time when the world seemed more connected, when sending a simple postcard was enough to bridge the gap between families and friends separated by miles. The excitement that once surrounded the postcard craze has slowed.
The rapid pace of technological advancements has begun to push the postcard to the margins. Telephones are becoming more common, allowing for real-time communication. The telegraph is increasingly used for long-distance messaging, making the postcard, with its slower pace, seem a bit quaint in comparison. Yet despite these shifts, postcards remain cherished relics of the past, offering people a tangible connection to moments that feel increasingly distant. The rise of postcards as a form of communication may be fading, but their emotional significance remains. You watch as the elderly woman lovingly places the postcard back in her album, the page turning with a soft rustle, and you realize that the postcard's value is no longer found in the messages they carry, but in the memories they evoke. Historians still argue whether the decline of the postcard craze was a result of the rise of faster communication technologies or simply the end of an era that couldn't keep up with the changing times. Either way, postcards have left a lasting legacy in their wake, a cultural phenomenon that bridged distances, captured memories, and transformed the way people communicated and expressed themselves. Even in their decline, postcards remain a symbol of a time when communication was more personal, when a simple image or message could evoke powerful emotions. You can't help but feel the weight of history as you continue walking through the city streets, observing how people now regard postcards with a sense of fondness, even nostalgia. While postcards may no longer be the dominant form of communication they once were, they are still cherished by collectors, artists, and those who long for a simpler time when words and images were exchanged in more thoughtful, deliberate ways. In some ways, the decline of the postcard reflects the larger shift in society from a slower, more personal form of communication to the fast-paced digital world we live in today. As you walk past a small shop, you notice a display of postcards, some old and worn, others freshly printed with modern designs. They catch your eye, and for a moment you're transported back to the Edwardian era, when postcards were a revolutionary form of communication. The scene before you is a reminder that postcards, while no longer at the forefront of communication, still carry with them the echoes of a bygone era. The world may have moved on to faster, more instantaneous forms of connection, but postcards continue to hold a special place in the hearts of those who value the art of communication, the beauty of the written word, and the simplicity of sharing a moment in time with someone else. And in that small, simple act, the world feels just a little bit closer.
As the years pass and technology advances, the postcard, once the darling of communication in Edwardian Britain, slowly fades into the background. But its decline isn't sudden. It's a quiet unraveling. You observe this shift firsthand as you stroll through the streets, noticing the gradual disappearance of postcard stalls, which were once common fixtures in every corner of the city. No longer is the vibrant, colorful display of postcards at every market or shop window drawing the crowds it once did. The postcards, now seen as quaint and nostalgic relics of a simpler time, are being replaced by newer, faster methods of communication, telephones and telegrams, both offering real-time conversations that postcards simply can't match. The digital revolution is beginning to rear its head, and while the shift is still in its infancy, you can already feel the momentum. The postcard, once the messenger between distant lands and loved ones, is no longer the quick and easy way to communicate. You see people on the streets clutching their newfangled telephones, speaking to friends and family across the country with no more than the press of a button. The speed and immediacy of these new technologies make the act of writing a postcard seem almost cumbersome. For the first time, a message can be sent and received in real time without the need to wait for a delivery. Yet, despite the rise of the telephone and other modern communication tools, postcards continue to linger. In a quiet corner of a bookstore, you come across a shelf filled with vintage postcards, some from exotic places, others depicting familiar landscapes, now infused with a sense of nostalgia. The cards are no longer exchanged as frequently, but they remain treasured artifacts of a bygone era. The shopkeeper, an older man with a kind smile, notices your interest and strikes up a conversation. He tells you that despite the decline of postcards as a primary form of communication, they are still beloved by collectors and enthusiasts who seek out rare postcards for their historical value or the beauty of their designs. It's clear that even in their decline, postcards have found a niche, a space where they are appreciated not for their function, but for their sentimental value. Historians still debate whether the decline of the postcard was an inevitable consequence of technological progress or if it was a result of the changing social fabric, perhaps the desire for instant and ephemeral communication, replacing the act of carefully writing a message on a small card. Was the postcard simply outpaced by more efficient forms of communication? Or did society itself change in such a way that the need for this more deliberate form of connection no longer seemed necessary? Regardless, the shift away from postcards marks an end of an era, a time when communication was slower and more deliberate, a time when people took the time to craft a message, choose the perfect card, and wait for it to reach its destination. But even as the postcards begin to fade from everyday life, you sense that their cultural significance remains. You see how people still hold on to old postcards, not as functional items, but as pieces of history. You watch as an elderly man shows his grandson a postcard he received from his wife while serving overseas during the war. The card is yellowed with age, but it still holds the same emotional weight it did when it was first sent. The words on the back are simple: "I miss you, come home soon." But to the man, that postcard represents more than just a message. It represents a connection to a time when letters and postcards were the lifeblood of communication. In homes across the country, postcards are still tucked away in drawers, framed on walls, or kept in albums as cherished memories. They are relics of a time when the world seemed larger, when a postcard could be a small piece of the world shared between two people. And while the postcards may no longer be the dominant form of communication, they continue to evoke a sense of nostalgia, a longing for a simpler, more personal time. The postcards, like the world they represent, are shifting into something else. They may no longer be the primary way to send messages, but they still serve a purpose. In an age where everything is instant, where communication often feels shallow and rushed, the postcard remains a reminder of a time when people took the time to connect, to share a piece of themselves with others in a more thoughtful way. It's a simple gesture, but one that speaks to the heart of human connection, sharing memories, thoughts, and experiences across distances. And so, as you continue walking through the city, you see postcards for sale in boutique shops, tucked away in dusty corners of antique stores, and even displayed in the homes of those who still cherish their historical value. The postcard may no longer be the dominant form of communication, but its legacy lives on, preserved not just in the cards themselves, but in the memories and emotions they continue to evoke. It's clear that the postcard, once a revolutionary form of communication, has become something else now, a symbol of nostalgia, connection, and a slower, more thoughtful way of sharing our lives with the world.
As you reflect on the legacy of the postcard, it's impossible to ignore how it has shaped the way we communicate today, even if its presence in daily life has diminished. You find yourself sitting in a quiet cafe, the hum of conversation around you mixing with the soft clink of teacups. On the table before you, a modern tablet glows with notifications, buzzing constantly with messages from friends, family, and even strangers. It's fast, it's instant, and it's so efficient. But as you swipe through message after message, you can't help but think about the postcards, the tiny, tangible pieces of communication from the past that were full of care, thought, and often a bit of time. In a world where everything is at our fingertips, it's easy to forget the importance of those small, deliberate acts of communication that postcards once represented. The postcard, in its heyday, was a thoughtful pause in a fast-moving world. It was an opportunity to send not just a message, but a moment, capturing something personal, something special, something that could live on long after the postcard was sent. In today's digital world, messages are often sent in a rush, fleeting, and easily forgotten. A few taps on a screen and the message is delivered, but the effort behind it is minimal.
The art of taking the time to choose a postcard, write a personal note, and carefully send it to someone is a lost art, replaced by the speed and convenience of instant messaging. But despite the dominance of digital communication, you begin to realize that postcards are far from forgotten. In fact, they've taken on a new life as cherished keepsakes, nostalgic artifacts from a different time. People still collect postcards, not for their utility, but for their sentiment. You visit an antique shop where you find shelves filled with postcards from years past. Some are carefully framed, others stored in delicate albums. The postcards are faded with time, but their charm is undiminished. Each card, no matter how old, carries with it a small piece of history, an image of a place long gone, a memory captured in a snapshot of time. In homes across the world, postcards still hold a special place, perhaps not for their role in communication, but for the memories they evoke. A postcard from a summer vacation might now rest in a drawer, tucked away alongside other mementos, but it still holds the essence of that moment, a snapshot of happiness, a reminder of a time spent with loved ones. It's not just a card, it's a memory, preserved, a physical connection to a time and place. The postcards that were once so ubiquitous in Edwardian Britain now serve as poignant reminders of a different era, a time when communication was slower, more deliberate, and somehow more meaningful. Historians still debate whether this new role of the postcard as a sentimental object reflects society's longing for a simpler time, or whether it's simply a natural byproduct of the rise of digital communication. Was the decline of the postcard inevitable as technology advanced, or was it a reflection of deeper cultural shifts in how people relate to each other? Whatever the answer, postcards have transformed from a rapid form of communication to cherished keepsakes, and that transformation speaks to the deeper human need for connection and memory. As you sit there, scrolling through digital messages, you catch sight of a postcard on the cafe's bulletin board. It's a vintage postcard, a faded image of a beach from a place far away, its corners slightly curled from age. You pause, and for a brief moment, it feels like the world slows down. You think about how different it would have been to receive a postcard like that in the mail, the anticipation, the thoughtfulness, the effort it took to send a small piece of the world to someone else. In today's fast-paced world, where messages arrive in seconds and communication is instantaneous, that feeling of waiting for a postcard, of holding something in your hands, seems almost like a luxury. The postcard may not be the dominant form of communication anymore, but it has left a lasting legacy in the way we communicate today. It taught us that communication is not just about sending a message, it's about the connection behind the message. It's about sharing a piece of yourself, a moment of your life, with someone else. In a world of instant messages and fleeting conversations, postcards remind us of a time when communication was about taking the time to connect, to share something meaningful, and to create memories that would last a lifetime. You stand up and walk out of the cafe, the postcard on the bulletin board still fresh in your mind. As you step into the street, you realize that postcards, in their own quiet way, have left an indelible mark on the world. They've taught us that communication is not just about speed. It's about connection, emotion, and memory. And though the postcards of the Edwardian era may no longer dominate the streets of Britain, their legacy lives on, captured in the hearts of collectors, in the memories of those who remember when they were more than just cards, and in the quiet moments when we still hold something tangible in our hands, a reminder of a time when the world seemed a little slower, a little more connected.